Welcome to the video on the neuron. Why would we look at the neurons if we're in a psychology class? Well, the first reason is that there are 86 billion of them in your head. Now that's about 15 times more people than on the planet Earth. And each of these neurons can have 10,000 contacts. How many friends can you have? So it's not an unreasonable comparison to compare the complexity of the brain to the complexity of the planet. And given that we have trouble figuring out what's going to happen politically in this planet of ours over time, it's not surprising that we have a little difficulty trying to figure out what's going to happen in the brain. The timescales aren't the same. The brain operates on tenths of milliseconds or tenths of seconds, and the political system in the United States and in the world operates on decades. But as I like to point out, when I was born in 1950, and now you know how old I am, my mother was told by everyone, except for her husband, my father, to give up the job she had because now she had a baby and a man needed that job. And as she pointed out, if you ask that question of my daughter today, she would think you'd had a stroke. So that's progress. So we're doing computations in our head many thousands of times faster than the planet. Still not as fast as silicon, but if each neuron is like a computer, you name me a system that has 86 billion parallel processors. So let's take a look at what a neuron is. Here we have a picture of the neuron from 3.8 in the textbook. If we zoom in, we can see that the first part of the neural function is in the cell body, and it has these branches that gather information from other neurons, other cells in the neighborhood. We'll talk in class about how that process works, but the function of it is to make some kind of a decision about whether to fire the axon and send a signal all the way down to the terminals. Now here it's pictured fairly short, but those terminals could be a long distance away relative to the size of the cell. They could go from the top of your head to the bottom of your spinal cord. When it gets to the end, it releases neurotransmitters to make the connection to the next cell. So we have two primary functions of the neuron: the gathering of information to make a decision, like a little computer, and the transmission of that decision to some other set of neurons at some distance away, a couple of cells away, across the brain, or at the bottom of the spinal cord. Remember those functions of the neuron: gathering information to make a decision at the level of a single cell, then sending that decision to another set of neurons some distance away, and using neurotransmitters to make that final connection. That integration and transmission function of the neuron will turn out to be key to assembling a brain that functions like we do.